everybody. Tyler here with Chaos Fishing. Summertime, kids are out of school. Just wanted to go over a few simple ways that you can get out there, get on the water, spend some time with the kids, spend some time with the family, but also load that box up with meat. Typically, April through end of July, big craze that everybody's going for is Mahi. Last year was one of the best years in the last 10 on record. This year they started chewing early. There's been a lot of Mahi out there, so let's dive into it, go over some combos, some rigs, stuff you guys can do to be successful. We'll start with the trolling. Easiest way, go out there, have some fun, catch some fish, and just enjoy is going to be trolling right here out front. As far as depth goes, I mean, it really ranges based on the wind, are the weeds scattered, the bait, the temperature. There's days where Mahi are going to be in 200 feet. I've had to run out to 1,200 feet this year to go find where the Mahi are at. So really anywhere in there, but nonetheless, let's get into it. When it comes to Mahi trolling and just your basic trolling, one thing that you really want to have is a soft action rod. You don't need to go out there trying to catch schoolie Mahi up to 30-inch with a complete broomstick and a big heavy reel. We've got some different options here that are really popular sellers. Want to kind of go through maybe the more budget-friendly, economical if you're just starting out and want to go that route, or something where it's a little more high-end, a little more high quality, something built to really, really last a long time. First one we're going to talk about is a staple. Shimano TLD 30, I mean, tried and true. Anybody who's been fishing a while has either owned and fished or knows the Shimano TLDs. Not super expensive compared to the Talica, Tiagra type price point. One of our staple rods that we've been building here for the last 15, 20 years, ECL 1530. This is a 6-foot trolling rod in our staple black and gold pattern. So one-piece construction, comes with metal reel seat, slick butt. Something that I like with this is a very, like I said, having a soft tip on it. You can do small skirts, ballyhoos, little Rapala plugs, little chains and teasers, things like that. This combo is going to come in at about 610 bucks. That's for the rod and the reel. Again, very easy, tried and true combo. Now, we're going to move into something a little bit different. This is going to be one of our 7-foot KC 20 to 40 live bait rods. What I like about this rod so much is it has a Winthrop Epic butt in a number 1 on it. Winthrop Epic butts are known for being extremely light, especially in this number 1 size. Very, very weight difference from this to maybe the base model that's got the foam rear grip here. Why I like this for the trolling aspect, when I put the rod in the rod holder, I don't have it digging into my foam like I would on a stock option. Talica 16, very, very, very lightweight, super smooth, very durable reel by Shimano. Almost 40 pounds of drag on this thing, which there's really no point you would ever use it for this type of application, that much power. One thing about this reel is, as small as it is, it makes it family friendly. You're out there, your small kids can go ahead and pick this up and get in on the bite. Your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, fiance, whatever. Anybody can really pick up a true rig like this and get in on the action while the bite is going. Another thing I like about this rod is its versatility. Not only can I use this out of standard lightweight trolling, being 7 foot with a nice soft tip, I can take my exact same rod and reel combo and go drift live baits. I can kite fish. I could drop it down if I wanted to do a little bit of bottom fishing down the road. I know this is more towards Mahi trolling, but it does really satisfy that combo that does a lot of different things. On this rod, we have the SIC guides here, so you're not going to have to worry about these little inserts and rings coming out as much as sometimes you do with the base model Fuji turbo guides. also makes the blank overall much lighter, not nearly as much frame as something in this. So this is a combo for someone who really wants the best of the best out there and says, hey, I'm gonna buy a rod and reel for Mahi trolling. I want to use it a bunch of other different ways, and it's something that I want to have for the next 10 to 20 years. Absolutely, this rod and reel would be a perfect choice for something like that. Rod and reel together coming in is going to be about $1,060 for rod and reel. Now, we'll get into it where, let's say we're out there, we're trolling around, and one of these two rods goes off. Clicker's going, there's a Mahi jumping. First thing you want to do is grab a spinning rod. Whether you have frozen bait or you have an artificial bait, a lot of times these Mahis, they travel in schools. So it's really important to capitalize on that very first fish. And they're going to hang around as long as that fish is there. Once that first fish comes out of the water, if you're not hooked up on another one, that school is gone. So make sure you have what we call pitch rods that are rigged, ready to go. Again, you can do just a regular leader and a circle hook. You can go ahead and throw an artificial. Great starting point pitch rod. This is the Shimano Spheros 8000 spinning rod. And another one of our staple rods that we build, the SPC 15 to 30. I deal with, customers every single day looking for different types of fishing, all different applications, people of all different backgrounds. This has got to be one of my favorite rods that we make, and a lot of people who have interacted with me or have gotten the pleasure to talk to here in the shop, I call it my Swiss Army knife rod. It's got a nice soft tip on it. I can set circle hooks. I can feel that bite, but it's also got a good amount of backbone when I need it. Being able to have this pitch to a Mahi, blackfin tuna, sailfish, something like that when they're around the boat, I could very easily say, grab a little tuna feather, tie that thing on, and if I'm limited on my trolling rods, I could use this as a little shotgun way out in the back trolling outfit. Very, very universal. This rod and reel together is going to come in at about $440. This is our Classic Series SPC 15 to 30 rod with the Shimano Spheros SW 8000 size reel. If you really want to step it up and have something that's going to last you a really long time and something you can do almost anything out front in Southeast Florida with as far as spinning gear goes, the Shimano Twin Power 10,000 on, again, that same SPC 15 to 30 rod. However, this one has the upgraded SIC guides. Typically, we call them our tournament series rods. These are, again, rods that you can fish. You're not going to have to worry about the braid digging into the rings of these guides, these rings coming out as much. This is something, okay, I'm going to really use this for braid. I want to make sure that I'm not going to run into any issues down the line. Aside from our staple black and gold color, I love the way that this blue silver matches with this Shimano Twin Power. So if you're looking for something, you want to get out there and just have a very versatile spinning setup. You can get into just about anything, and whether it's artificial, live bait, dead bait, chunk bait, this rod and reel would be a great pairing. It's going to come in at just about $1,100 for this rod and reel together. So we've covered just general purpose trolling, nice lightweight rod. And we've covered our pitch rods. These are rods we want to have rigged and ready to go when that school of Mahi comes around. These are a little bit bigger reels, a little bit more beefy profile of a rod, which you really want to have that offshore, but there's going to be times where maybe you want something lighter that you could throw out. Or me personally, I'm out there, I'm trolling for Mahi, I found a good weed line, we're going along it. I like to get up in the front of the boat and actually cast a lure or a jig as I'm moving up that weed line, and I'm not just waiting for my rods to go off in the back. I can actually reach out, touch that fish and bring that school to me. When it comes to something like that, great rod and reel choice. This is our Chaos Inshore Medium Rod, 7 foot, with the Shimano Saragossa 5000. Typically, I would have a rig like this loaded with 30-pound braid. I can get a really nice long cast, and I can also cast all day long. This rod and reel doesn't weigh near as much as something like this, which these are great, but this is something, like I said, I can go along the weed lines, and for an hour, I can sit there and just continuously making casts or making pitches and really getting that out there. It is definitely a lighter blank here, very soft tip. This rod could be used for a ton of other things. This could be used for yellowtail, it could be used for inshore. I like it so much for the Mahi personally though, because after fishing for so long and catching so many fish, you still want to be able to find the pleasure and the enjoyment in it. Having a light rod like this and some lighter line allows me to fight that fish on a lighter tackle. The fight is longer. It's a little more of a finesse fishery as opposed to your standard just meat winch them over the gunnel. And it really brings that joy into it for me. This rod and reel together is going to come in at about $685 for the rod and reel. Again, this is our Chaos Inshore Medium Rod in our Royal Silver with a Shimano Saragossa 5000. Super, super light, universal, awesome setup. All right, so now we've got the gear that we need to go out and troll around and catch some mahi, blackfin tuna, some sailfish, stuff like that. But none of this really matters without bait. Bait is what you're gonna hook up on that fish. So just gonna go through a couple options that I really like and I fish a lot and we have available here in the store for you. First really common option, staple, is having skirts. Now these are not rigged. These are something that you would purchase and you can rig yourself. Myself, anybody else here in the shop, we would be more than happy to rig them up for you. Very, very popular to go out there and set a spread of them. I could run 4 of these things, 6 of these things, just 2 of them. Really doesn't matter. Doesn't require big heavy tackle to pull them. Any of these setups would really go ahead and pull these nicely. These happen to be Black Bart skirts, which is just one of my personal favorites. I think that the quality they make, I think that the color patterns that are available are really good. Listen, there's a ton of other brands out there, Zack Attack, Williamson, all kinds of stuff. They're good, but these are just some of my hand-picked favorites. You've got options with more of like a bullet head, like this little sushi. I've got more of a flat head that just kind of displaces, like these bullies. And one of my personal favorites, this is your standard bubbler style. Little bit bigger. This one I think resembles a flying fish really well. These heads have some holes right here in the front, leaves a bubble trail as they're being pulled through the water. This is the L Squid Junior. All of them really great options. So maybe rigging your own skirts or something like that is just not your cup of tea, or you're in a time crunch and you just need to get in and out of a tackle shop really quick and get out there on the water and catch those fish. We do carry some pre-rigged lures as well, a wide variety of them. Some of my personal favorites over the last 2 years have got to be these Isla Morada flyers. These things are great. Again, they're small, they're lightweight, they're something that can be put out and fished on any of these 4 rods. We do have them unrigged as well if you'd like to put it over a ballyhoo. But this guy is going to come with its own leader already attached, a loop for you to attach your snap swivel. Inside here, you're going to have your hook here. As this bait comes out and just skips across the water, what separates it are these little mylar wings. Remember, when these fish come and they crash on these baits, they're not looking at it from the side saying, does that actually look like a flying fish? No, they're coming from the bottom and they're blowing up on that bait. So these wings, that's about as natural and close as you can get. They do come in several different sizes. When I'm a little bit shallower, or on some days where I'm out there and I'm looking for mahi and I see those flyers go spraying, they'll be smaller sized. I'm gonna pull something like this. If I'm out there in 1,000 feet of water and I'm starting to get those big flyers moving through, step it up, put it on this next size here. Again, this is totally doable with any of these combos we talked about. Another pre-rigged bait that we typically have here in stock in our shop, and very, very, very common, again, mahi, blackfin tuna, are going to be one of our little chains. So we will go ahead, put some smaller skirts towards the top of these guys. It's got a little loop for you to attach your snap swivel to. In the back, smaller profile bait. You know, I like this real flashy mylar type skirt, and this is the only bait that actually has a hook in it. So as you're going through the water, all of these are going to be pulling from the top. You're going to see, that fish is going to see a couple little baits that are all huddled together, and then one that's just a little bit farther behind. Typically, that's the fish that looks like the weakest link. That's the one that's going to get hit the most common. These are about 45 bucks, and we keep them here in stock. Again, another just great pre-done bait that you can have and deploy at any time. All right, so next is going to be something that we can put on our light rods when we're out there mahi fishing, but get your baits a little bit deeper. I never go out and troll without having some sort of deep bait, whether it's going to be a planer or a larger nomad, something that gets down in the water column. They're not always just pulling up top. This is something that you can pull on any of these lighter tackle rods and reels outfits. You've got an X-Wrap 15. I typically like the green colors. I like the silver, the blue. They all work pretty well. This just happens to be one of my favorites. This guy's going to be about 15 feet below the surface. And like I said, from my spinners to my small trolling rods, I can pull this on just about anything. This is the Nomad Mad Max. This is a lipless bait, so there's no lip on it like here on the Rapala X-Wrap, but it does go about 10 feet under the surface. Again, something you can pull on smaller tackle. This mackerel color, to me, has always done well down here for the variety of bait fish and things that you're going to find those mahi are feeding on offshore. So always make sure when you're out there mahi fishing, grab one of your setups, and even if it's just something small like this, get a bait down in the water column where you might miss up here, and usually that can get hit, bring the rest of the fish up, and next thing you know, you're in a school. Next, when it comes to just going out and mahi fishing, you know, if you really want to get the up on them and not just pull imitation baits, not just pull stuff that really isn't real. It doesn't have that look, it doesn't have that smell. A lot of guys will rig their own trolling baits with frozen. You can also stop on in and grab pre-rigged frozen baits. These are just your run-of-the-mill double hook mono ballyhoo. These are from Bionic Bait. They work really well. You get 3 per pack. A lot of times what I like to do with something like this is have some standard P-line skirts that I can just slide on over once I open these rigs up, and it just adds a little bit more profile to that bait. Gets a little bit more attention. Another thing very, very common over the last couple of years as far as frozen bait you can get out there and troll, rigged squids. These things are phenomenal, and they are dolphin killers. When dolphin are out that deep, a lot of times they are feeding on schools of squid that are moving through. And honestly, I haven't found anything that doesn't eat a squid. So great 2 baits. You can pick them up early in the morning or the day before. Just keep them with you. And if those artificials and those lures aren't getting it done, move to it. All right. So we're out there, we're deep, we're trolling, and we've gotten into a school of mahi. The rods are going off, We got somebody hooked up on the fish. We're ready to go and get into the next side. I talked earlier about being able to cast for these guys and having some pitch rods or some typical casting rods like this one here. Just wanted to go over a few of my favorite things that I like to use with you guys. Start with the leader. Most of your schoolies, basic stuff like that, 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon, perfect leader. I do 6 to 10 feet of length, something really sleek like an FG or an Alberto knot, easy through the guides. If you're getting into bigger fish or you have bigger baits, I do like to have something on board that's rigged a little bit heavier, a little bit more geared towards that. This is a spool of 50 pound fluorocarbon. Brand is your personal choice. I have found really, really good luck with the Yozuri HD fluorocarbon. So I've got my fluoro leader attached to my line. Next thing, what am I throwing at these fish? When it comes to frozen chunk bait, I like to have a circle hook on my pitch rods. These guys, 6/0, 7/0, somewhere around there. I'm a Mustad guy. VMC is a great option. BKK is a great option. Owner has some really good hooks. Your choice, but having maybe a chunk of ballyhoo that's been cut up, maybe having a bag of frozen pilchards that we sell here in the shop. You can have them de-thawing, pull those guys right out, cut up squid, cutting sardines, all great baits. Nothing's going to beat a live bait. Fresh, live, pilchards, goggle-eye, ballyhoo, things like that. It's almost a sure bet every time you run into a school of mahi that they're going to eat it. But sometimes we don't have that stuff available. So some artificials that I like, you're going to have, again, a tried and true staple, a bucktail. Anything that has white in it, where it's got black, white, silver, blue and white, red and white, chartreuse, they all work. This is a very simple method. Cast this out on the back as that fish is hooked. Let it kind of fall. Sometimes they'll pick it up as it's falling. Sometimes you want to be able to give it a twitching action, and a lot of times you'll see they'll get real bright and vibrant. Now that bait's moving and they'll come in and they'll swipe at it. Great bait to have just rigged, ready, here on the rods, ready to go. Stick baits, another great option. Absolutely love stick baits. Yozuri Crystal Minnows, Rapala X-Wraps, both of them work really well. This happens to be the Rapala X-Wrap size 12 olive green. I love this lure specifically because it's big enough where I can cast it on one of our SPC 1530 rods, but it's also got a very natural color resembling a pilchard. When it comes to working this lure, you can cast it out and just slowly retrieve it back in, or quickly retrieve it back in and it's closer to the top. I can get a kind of stop and twitch motion when I want to and slow that bait down and wait for that fish to make the strike as opposed to chasing my bait all the way to the boat. Honestly, in a pinch, I've had these things and just thrown them out in the back of the spread and have a little bait that's just 5-6 feet under the surface. Really universal bait, works really well. Lastly, one of my favorites, having a swim bait. Lots of good baits out there. R&R makes a great bait called a slide bait. Everybody and their mother knows about the NLBNs, all their different sizes. This is my personal go-to, and this is the JYG Swim. I love, love, love these baits, especially in this pilchard type color. Represents, even if it wasn't a pilchard, a lot of those small bait fish hiding in those weed lines are going to try to camouflage and blend in. Light green colors like that. This is a 4-inch bait. Again, doesn't require super heavy tackle. Can be thrown on any of these 3 rods. As far as spinning gear, very easy to use. Throw it out, let it sink a little bit, and just retrieve it back in. No extra work needed, nothing like that. Super effective. JYG does a great job with having nice thick hooks on here, so I'm never worried about this hook bending out and coming straight. Great bait. All right, we've talked a lot about the rods and reels. We've talked a lot about the baits that are kind of needed to get out there and get into the mahi, blackfin tuna type fishing right now that we've got going off on the summertime here in Southeast Florida. Line. Line is a big thing when it comes to this. This is a reel that I spooled for a customer. Very similar purpose. I fish 20 to 30 pound mono for this type of stuff on my trolling rig. I don't need anything super heavy. I've got a ton of capacity on any of these reels. It's very easy to tie, something that maneuvers through the water very well. I like high vis lines on the troll. High vis is typically going to be your orange or your yellow, whatever your preference is. And really, none of them are better, because I get asked a lot, is orange or yellow better? Neither one is. It depends on you and your eyesight. When you're out there and you're looking at multiple lines across the horizon as these are trolling, you want to be able to make sure you can see where they come into the water and be able to keep them spread apart. I see orange a little better against the water than this real vibrant yellow. Some people see the yellow a lot better. Again, really no wrong answer, but definitely want to have some high vis 20 pound to 30 pound mono on your trolling rigs. So let's talk about line choice when it comes to your spinning outfits, your pitch outfits. Again, anywhere in that 20 to 30 pound range is perfectly fine. You can definitely run braid on here. A lot of people do. And when I'm doing braid, I'm going to have a setup more geared towards this, but make sure you have a nice long leader or a nice long top shot on there. You're getting stretch, you're getting stealth, really easy to present that bait. There's no weights in this. You're just letting that bait either free fall or swim, so you want to have that very natural type look. I fish a lot of 20 pound clear on here. Suffix, diamond, doesn't really matter. I prefer the suffix. But just a very simple, easy to use. When you do fish the mono on these spinning reels, typically you're not as worried about having to tie a leader on every single time like when you're using braid. So it could be a little more user-friendly just starting out. People who are just getting into this, haven't really fished a lot, haven't tied a lot of knots. Mono can be a little easier to tie with. I would say that would be a great option for this outfit. Lastly, we're going to go into more my casting style outfit like this. Here, it's a little bit more important to me to really be able to reach out and touch those fish. Whether I'm closing the gap between me and the lines of the weeds that I'm covering, whether I'm trying to get in front of a school of moving fish that are passing through, and I really need to make a long cast and be able to get to them. I fish braid on here. 30, you could go up to 40 if you want. I really found 30 pound braid would work perfect on a rig like this. You're still going to hold every bit of about 200 yards of line. So even if you do hook a big fish, you're finessing them, let them run, unless there's sharks around. Then you want to get that fish to the boat a little bit quicker. That's when I like having the strength of that 30 pound braid. Again, Suffix, Power Pro, Berkeley, all bunch of different braids out there that are really good. I like them all. I think they all have their advantages, but this would be a great outfit with 30 pound braid, being able to go and throw any of those little lures that I was talking about earlier and really reach out and touch those fish and close that gap. Last point I really want to hit on with you guys is planer fishing. Planer fishing is very, very effective, and it's effective for a wide variety of species. I've been out there pulling planers most of my life offshore. I really, really like those style setups and wanted to give you guys a couple options that you can get into, whether you're looking for, again, more that budget, just getting into it, or hey, I'm gonna buy once, cry once, I want to get the best gear and just be done with it. Planer fishing, target species. I've caught everything from kudas to mahi, blackfin tuna, sailfish. It's by far my favorite way to target wahoo. Really, anything out there you can get on a planer. Planers do require a little bit heavier of a setup. Not something you'd be pulling on your typical KC live bait rod like you would with the Mahi or your ECL 1530 nice soft action trolling rod. This is going to be something where you are running a little bit heavier tackle, and when I say that, I'm talking 30 class to 50 class. Again, don't need giant 80s, don't need all kinds of stuff. One that would be a great starter rod and reel for planer fishing and would really cover a wide variety of the size planers we typically pull here out of Southeast Florida is going to be the Shimano TLD 50 LRSA. 2-speed reel, lever drag, ton of drag power. This is one of our ECL 50 to 100 black and gold tournament series. You definitely want to make sure when you're fishing planers that you have SIC guides on your rod. One, you're going to have braid when you're fishing with planers, so those can be digging into here. Also, if you fish like I do, on the latest and greatest in planer fishing is the planer bridles. So let's factor in braid that's constantly under heavy load here as this rod's bowed over, but now we got metal swivels that are clinking through here. Durability is a must. Two-piece separates here. This rod and reel combo is going to come in at just over $900 for the reel and the rod. Great just getting into it. You can pull anything from a number 3 to an occasional number 8 with this rod and reel. If you're going to pull a lot of number 8s, the reel will do it, but you typically want to step up into something like a Tiagra. Okay, you guys have heard me talk about the buy once, cry once type of mentality several times, and when it comes to that, there's no better true example than the Shimano Tiagra conventional reel. This is a 30 wide, which will comfortably do 3s, 4s, 6s. If I pull my 8s, I typically like to have a 50 wide available, because the drag washers are going to be a little bit bigger in something like that. The gears, everything's just a little more beefed up, and I'm really putting a lot of stress on that reel. But Tiagra's hands down one of the most durable reels that you can possibly buy. I spool these things all the time. They're well over 20 years old, and commercial fishing guys and charter captains are just bringing them in to get new line. I mean, you really can't kill them. And if you're looking for something that you could pass down to your kids and it's super powerful, this is my reel of choice, Shimano Tiagra. Now on here, I like being able to have a 30 wide as opposed to always the big 50 wide, because it's a lot lighter. It's a lot less bulky. I can pick it up and maneuver it when I want to stand up that fish a lot easier. This is going to be one of our newer Chaos SW planer rods. This rod is about 6 feet long, so you can reach the tip if you need to help guide a bridle through or something like that. Typically, a lot of planer rods can be longer, 7, 8 foot. Still good rods. I just personally like something a little shorter. I'm only 5'10". I want to be able to easily reach that swivel and push it through if I need to, or help guide it. Also just feels a little bit more manageable for someone like me. This rod is rated 50 to 100 class. SIC guides all the way through, so it lasts with the braid, it lasts with those metal swivels coming through, and perhaps one of the most important pieces about this rod is the Winthrop roller tip. Winthrop does an amazing job when it comes to their roller tips. Not only are they very durable, but their design where the roller itself sits recessed in the frame gives the maximum amount of clearance for a swivel or a wind-on leader to come up and through this tip. I absolutely love this rod as it's got a lot of backbone on it, but you do want to have some flex when you're planer fishing, because It's going to be sitting in the rod holder, bowed over like this. That planer is going to get hit with a fish. It's going to come up and then go back down, and now there's a fish on it. A lot of times when I'm out there trolling, especially with planers, I am watching those tips, waiting for something to pop up and then come back down. I know whether that drag's going off or not, or maybe we've got the music going a little too loud. I know there's a fish on the end of that rod. I can run over, set that hook, and start fighting that fish. Another really cool feature about this rod is it comes with the Winthrop Epic butt in a number 2. Epic butts are significantly lighter than most other number 2 stand-up rod butts. They're also a little bit longer than a lot of the Alps, AFCOs that you would find on a typical stock model rod. So what I like about that little bit of extra length on the butt is when I put this in the rod holder, that reel is going to sit a little bit further up off the gunnel. So if that planer's still on there and I need to make an adjustment, I don't have to go pick up that rig and then try to return it. Nope, I can just walk over to it and I can make adjustments right here and fight from the gunnel. Or maybe you're out there with some really small kids, planer's already been tripped, fish is on, and now they're on the end of a 30-pound tuna or a wahoo, something like that. Again, not worried about taking this out and them not being able to manage and hold it quite as well. I got plenty of clearance from my gunnel. Go ahead and sit there and turn that handle, get that fish to the boat. This rod and reel is going to come in just about $1,300 for the Chaos SW series planer rod and the Shimano Tiagra 30. Again, I know it's quite a high price point, but this is something you would get if you truly just want something that you can hand down to the next generation and catch a boatload of fish on. All right, so we've got our 30 and 50 wide reels on our 50 to 100 class rods, which are going to handle a very wide variety of planers that we're going to be pulling here off Southeast Florida. Let's go into line. Line choice, 65 to 80 pound braid. Not a place for mono, not somewhere you want to be pulling it. Straight butt rods. My personal choice would be Power Pro Depth Hunter Offshore. Not your regular depth hunter, the offshore. The reason I like this line so much is it changes color every 100 feet. So it's very easy for me to go ahead and set a spread and know exactly how far down my planers are, so I can get them to that optimal swim in depth. It also gives me that peace of mind that as I'm dropping those planers back, that they are very far spread apart, and I'm just counting colors. Another cool factor that goes into here is, aside from your solid color change every 100 feet, there's a black mark about that big every 10 feet or so. So if I really wanted to get specific and say, I want to set 240 yards of line out on this reel and 360 yards out on this reel, I could hone in and get as specific as I want to. And that just makes it really great for planer fishing. Planer sizes. Typically the most wide used planer sizes here, number 3s, number 4s, number 6, number 8. Just wanted to show you guys a couple of these guys here. So we've got number 3 planer, which is roughly about that same size as a number 4 planer. Overall body length, very similar. Number 6, number 8. These I would want to pull more so on 50 class tackle, where number 4 size planers, number 3 size planers, I can pull on 30 class tackle. If I'm going to dedicate my rods for planer fishing, typically I want to have a 30 wide for my smaller planers and a 50 wide for my larger. These are going to be pulling a lot harder on your drag systems, your drag washers, things like that. So it's important to have a setup that's rated for both of these guys. People ask me all the time, what's the best planer size to use? There's really no perfect answer to that. It just depends how deep those fish are on that given day. Ideally with old salty planers, where we have them here in the shop, you can come check them out. If you take the number on the planer, times it by 10, in ideal conditions, that's about the depth they're going to go. So I run almost always 2 planers off the back of my boat whenever I'm fishing for wahoo or, you know, anything like that. Kingfish, very, very popular on planer fishing. I'm going to have my number 6 or my number 8 closest to my boat, my deepest ones. Then I'm going to have my number 3 or my number 4 slightly staggered back behind. Ideally, they'll be running like this. Bigger planers up to the front and deeper, smaller planers slightly past and a little shallower. And that's where, instead of the old method of counting seconds, having a metered line like the Power Pro Depth Hunter Offshore really makes it super, super simple. Sit there, count colors, I know I'm good to go. All right, something you can pop in at any given point and come check out the newest, latest, and greatest when it comes to planer fishing, fishing them off of a bridle system. Bridles are 2 wind-on swivels, whether they are diamond, Spro, Bluewing makes some really good swivels out there. You know, you're going to have your main line attached to one end. And then you're going to have your planer leader, typically about 100 feet, 50 to 80 pound mono, coming off of the tail end. It's going to sit like this. Bridles are very important to make sure you're getting the right size bridle for the right size planer. Number 3s and number 4s, again, they have the same body length or very similar. You can run the same size bridles. Number 6s, number 8s, you can run the same size bridles for them. I like to rig mine and have them where my braids are 2 different colors, and that helps me to remember, hey, this is my number 6 and number 8, this is my number 3 and number 4 when I go to. So the way these work is you're going to have 2 double snap swivels. On the front and tail end of the planer, you're going to have one side that's snapped closed. We cut open these side parts here, and the reason we do that is as I'm going to connect this on, I'm going to take this open end, stick it right in there, and now that planer can come on and off when it comes out of the water. It would be attached here. Old school, when I started planer fishing many years ago, you got the planer up to the boat, you're hand lining the rest of that leader. It was usually attached with like a snap swivel on the back end of it. Now with this new bridle system, I unhook my planer, and this will go up and over. This will go up and through the guides on my planer rod. Now I'm finishing that fight on just rod and reel line like I would anything else. I don't have a big mess on the boat next to me. I'm not worried about wrapping my hand, trying to bring that fish in. It's just direct right to it, fight it like I would any other style fish. Last piece I'm going to hit on with you guys when it comes to planer fishing is your rigs. So planer rigs look a little bit more than they are. They're very simple. You've got a sea witch of your favorite brand. You've got a P-line skirt, just a run-of-the-mill plastic skirt, and a tinsel insert. That's pretty much it. Slid up on the line. Some people really like the single hook rig where it's got wire. You can tie the bonita strip, have it pulled all the way up to the front, and run your planers like that. I'm a very old school type of fisherman, and I like to catch a lot of kingfish, which have very soft mouths on the inside behind those teeth. I like to pull my planers on the double hook system. These are Mustad 34091 hooks, 7/0, 8/0. Both of them work pretty well, just depends on the strip. And I would take my bonita strip and put the front end on this front hook, run this hook flat through the back of the strip, and rig it no different than I would a soft plastic if I was fishing inshore. I want it just nice and streamlined. Just a personal preference. We've got plenty of material here if you wanted to get into it, start making your own planer rigs, or if you're kind of in a time crunch or you just want to have some backups on the boat, we do rig here in store, pre-made planer rigs in both single hook and double hook fashion. All right, guys. Well, I know that was a ton of material. You know, we're getting to the beginning of July. We just had America's 250th birthday over the weekend. Gonna start getting to that second half of the summer. So if you guys aren't out there and you're not targeting those mahi and those blackfin, you're gonna miss the window. Just to reiterate, 15 to 30 6-foot or 7-foot trolling rods, 20 rods, and 50 to 100 class trolling rods with 30 to 50 wide style reels on them, 65 to 80 pound braid. Thank you.